the Epstein emails, anyone who's telling you this is huge is a liar. Anybody who's telling you this is it, here we go, Trump's going down, is full of shit and just doing clickbait. Now, here's what I've always said about Epstein, and I have a lot of deep sourcing in and around this, okay? What Bongino, what Kash Patel, and now what Ro Khanna and all the guys on the left, they're all full of shit and they're playing you. But anyone who's telling you right now, oh, this is big, I've never seen them this scared, that person is full of shit. And I say release all the files, and then you'll see what there was there and what people knew wasn't there. And then you'll know what to trust, who to trust, and who to tell to fuck off.
What we see today is a bunch of innuendo. It's hearsay. There isn't any direct backup for any allegation, because there aren't any allegations other than Trump may have been in a house where there are some girls. Right. Okay. So you have the lady in question, and I feel very bad for Miss Giuffre's family. He committed suicide. What a horrible thing. The whole thing is just awful. And that's right on Epstein. You have her saying under oath, Trump didn't do anything, and you have Maxwell. But here's the most important person you have, not under oath. Dershowitz. Dershowitz was Epstein's lawyer, and lawyer-client confidentiality ends with death. Dershowitz went on television today, said, I have all of the Epstein stuff, and there isn't anything. And I asked Epstein directly, while I was representing him, whether Donald Trump was involved in any kind of untoward activity. And Epstein said no. So now you have the three principal players in this case, all saying the same thing. Yet the press is so irresponsible, so corrupt, so hateful, they will not even mention that. It's death by innuendo. That is what they are aiming for.
Stephen A., what you think?
I get that. And I think that what Bill said and just articulated is incredibly important. It is death by innuendo.
Boy. So we got to talk about Stephen A. Smith once again going off on Democrats, because he's realizing the type of disgusting games that Democrats like to play, right? Specifically when it comes to this issue of Epstein, in which you have Democrats using the tragic experiences that teenage girls went through with Jeffrey Epstein against President Trump and trying to smear him as some sort of pedophile, right? This is what they're doing. They're doing this on national television. The liberal media, including BS Now, they're giddy, kikiing, ha-haing about the possibility that some damning information is going to be revealed about President Trump.
Sure that the Department of Justice didn't have this information, and if they didn't have this information, do we know whether or not they actually deleted this information? Do we know that there was a thorough investigation? Do we know whether or not the investigation had concluded? These are all questions that we need answers to, but we can't get them when you're not cooperating. So we don't know what the DOJ has, nor what it is that the DOJ potentially was trying to do. Considering that the president right now is trying to obstruct on some very basics of let's just get a subpoena that says release all the information, I wouldn't be surprised, just like he obstructed the prosecution of one of his henchmen who took $50,000 in taxpayer dollars from undercover officers. I wouldn't be surprised if he sent a message and said, stop investigating. We're done with this. Epstein's dead. I don't want to hear anything else about it.
Do you have any evidence of that claim?
I have no idea. No, that's the whole point. I have no information. And that's why we need these files to be released, because we are looking for transparency, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. Listen, if people decide that they want to continue to support a person who may be a pedophile himself, or a person who obviously is covering for pedophiles, that's on them. But they should know at least the devil that they have decided to pick.
In supporting what Donald Trump is doing.
You're talking about the other predators out there, in addition to Trump. I mean, I'm not saying he is. We don't know all the details about that. I just mean in addition to what we've learned about Epstein and others, there's other predators out there.
There are, and we have to remember that Alex Acosta, when he...
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that, okay? I think that everybody understands the game that Democrats are playing here, okay? I think that they're overplaying their hand. just like they overplayed their hand when it came to the shutdown that they knew at some point they would have to fold on, and now they are taking a whole lot of backlash from it, from their radicalized base of lunatics. And I think the same thing is going to happen on Epstein, okay? And one of the reasons why I say this is because of the fact that Democrats, once again, had an opportunity to vote to release the Epstein files, and for whatever reason, they decided not to.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett, back on the farm in Tennessee after opening the government up yesterday. I put forth a UC, which is a motion for unanimous consent, and it was for Ro Khanna's bill. It didn't even have anything to do with Massey's. His still is still there, and they can do whatever they want to with that. But Ro Khanna's bill just said release the files, and dadgummit, that's what everybody wants, apparently, and that's what I did. And the Democrat leadership opposed to it, and that's why that they said it was in fact not in order, because to be unanimous consent, of course, is unanimous. Now, if you don't believe my words, read the House manual, page 805. I believe it's the second paragraph down, and you can read it for yourself. It's public record. They're either lying to y'all or they're just intentionally trying to mislead you. I think a little bit of both by some of them, and some of them honestly just are just mistaken. But anyway, that's what it's about. It's about releasing Ro Khanna's bill, page 805. Also, if you will go back and look at some of the comments, people are saying, well, I did that to hide so you won't know how they voted. No, in fact, that is the whole definition of a unanimous consent. It is unanimous. It means that you voted in favor of it. You can't hide behind anything and say, well, I didn't vote for that. Well, you had your opportunity on the floor under unanimous consent, and apparently the Democrats are just playing games. They're not about getting the truth out, folks. This is just about power and control, just like the shutdown was for. It had nothing to do with doing what's right and looking after the innocent and punishing the guilty. And that's what all this is about. So thank y'all for sending me here.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. When given an opportunity to release the files, right, which is what Democrats have been calling for, they chose not to do it. Now, again, why is that? Take your best guess, right? We've already talked about the bombshell emails that came out yesterday and how Democrats redacted the name of Virginia Giuffre, who was in the emails that mentioned President Trump spent time with her. They redacted her name in order to make it seem like President Trump spent time with some random victim and, was doing inappropriate things with a teenage girl. When, in fact, the victim, Virginia Giuffre, said under oath that she never witnessed President Trump doing anything, right? She exonerated the president. In fact, before she tragically took her own life, allegedly, she was a supporter of the president, right? She was a very, very, very staunch supporter of the president. Now, the reason why Democrats didn't release the files unredacted, even though they were already public, right? Some of the stuff was actually already public. The reason why they didn't do it is because they was playing up on the ignorance of their base, right? That's what they were doing. It was a game to them. Because if they would have released it unredacted, then people would have said, well, Virginia Giuffre already said that President Trump didn't do anything. And that's not what Democrats want you to think. That's not what MSDNC wants you to think. That's not what they want you to think. They want you to be obsessed with, well, Trump's names are in the email. Because that was a distraction from the fact that they're getting a lot of backlash for the shutdown, right? You just had a bunch of Democrats vote to officially end the shutdown in the House, okay, because it passed the Senate. The Democrats in the Senate got a lot of backlash, and then in the House, there was a vote, and it just so happens on the same day that they're voting, we get these bombshell Epstein emails. Again, a lot of stuff already public information. And then the mainstream liberal media, MSDNC, CNN, they're all running with this, right? They're all running with it. It's almost as if, again, they don't want you to talk about the fact that over the last month, the Democrats shut down the government, took away people's food stamps, took money out of the pockets of workers, made federal workers work for no pay. No pay. and they didn't really get anything out of it. They never got any of the stuff that they claimed they shut the government down for, right? Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Now, my gut feeling is that it doesn't matter what they release. They're not going to get the smoking gun that they're looking for. I'm actually 100% confident that there's nothing, right? And again, we know that there's nothing there because if there was something there, it would have been released by now, okay? But we're going to see. We're going to see because next week, apparently, they're going to have a vote on releasing more information, and we're going to see how that goes. We're going to see how Democrats actually vote on this.
Republican Congressman Thomas Massie and Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, and thank you both for being here, obviously on a huge day for the two of you. I'll ask you, since he's the Republican House Speaker, he's calling it totally pointless exercise and completely moot. What do you make of his comments? Do you agree with those?
Well, the White House spent a lot of effort in the midst of a shutdown to stop a totally pointless exercise that's completely mute.
So how many Republicans do you think are going to vote for this next week when Speaker Johnson brings it to a vote?
I think there's going to be a deluge of Republicans. The longer this goes on, the more support we gain. And I think the Speaker recognized that. And that's why, after months of trying to stop us, he's decided to accelerate the vote because he knows we're going to get votes. And that's going to carry momentum into the Senate. And that's why it's important to get a big vote in the House for Roe and I on this measure, is because that's where it goes next, is the Senate.
Yeah, so what happens here when it goes, if it passes and it does have that deluge of Republicans? I know you said today you thought 40 to 50 could potentially vote for it. Is that right?
Well, I think the Speaker's concluded if you can't stop the parade, you might as well lead it. And so now he's saying, I want to have the vote. I do think that you could get 30, 40, 50 Republicans voting for it because what are we talking about? We're talking about rich and powerful men who abused young girls and told people in junior high to go recruit others to be raped or abused. That's what we're talking about. And we're saying that these victims want to expose the men who did this to them. Some of these men still have buildings named after them. Some of them still have scholarships named after them. Enough. And so I think when it's actually a vote on the House floor, do you want these files released? Republicans and Democrats are going to vote yes.
So what does it say if that happens and there are that many people who are in the House who vote for it and the Senate doesn't take it up?
Well, you know, we used a discharge petition. This is a parliamentary procedure that's only available in the House. It's only been successful maybe 20 times in the history of our country. Like, we had a 4% probability, if you look at statistics, of getting this to the floor, but we succeeded. In the Senate, They don't have a discharge petition, but they do have other ways. Each senator is almost like their own rules committee over there. And by being dilatory or accelerating the process for other senators, they can cajole them into getting votes. And I think we could see a vote on this in the Senate.
Why do you think the president keeps calling it a hoax, as he did again today? And he basically said no real Republicans, no good Republicans that aren't stupid or bad would fall for this trap.
It's sad to me because I actually didn't do this to score points against Donald Trump. I know Representative Massie didn't do it for that reason. We did it because we heard the stories of these survivors and we want justice for them. They're going to be out in front of the Capitol again on Tuesday. They were out about 2 months ago. And my guess is they're going to say the same thing. Mr. President, please meet with us.
Yeah, no, it is 100% a hoax because they are doing it to smear the president. That is why they're doing it, okay? Everybody knows this, okay? Any honest person that's not a complete, total Democrat Party shield knows that these people don't actually care about the victims. They don't care about these files. In fact, I feel like a lot of these Democrats don't want the files released, right? Which is why I highly doubt that they're actually going to vote to have them released, right? We're going to see. Or they're going to be banking on the legislation not going anywhere in the Senate, right? If they do vote to have it released, they're going to bank on it, again, not going anywhere in the Senate. And they can say, well, I voted for it, knowing that nothing's actually ever going to come out. Now, here's the thing, right? Okay? Again, normal people are seeing this for what it is. Democrats are overplaying their hand. There's nothing in those files that are damaging towards Trump, not in a real way, right? There's no smoking gun against the president because if they had a smoking gun, Democrats would have released it when they were in office. They had plenty of opportunity to do so. I don't want to hear anything about the judge unsealed the files in January 2024. Don't care. They still have a whole year. They still had a whole year to do it. And because they didn't do it, it should tell you everything that you need to know about this, right? Smart people people who are paying attention, they realize, wait, hold on now. Again, this is a game from Democrats. Democrats actually don't give a damn about the victims. They just want to smear Trump without having any actual proof that the president did anything wrong, knowing that the information is probably not going to come out. And if the information does come out, it's not really going to say what Democrats are hoping that it says, which is what Stephen A. is realizing, which is that, again, Democrats are trying to trick people, and he's going to go off on Democrats for the games that they're playing with the Epstein files.
Young girls being sexually molested is as disgusting as it gets. It is as vile as it gets. We ain't making any excuses for anybody like that. What a despicable, despicable human being. There's a special place in hell for people like that. But that's not what anybody can definitively associate the president with. He knew Epstein, so did Bill Clinton. So did a plethora of other famous people.
Yeah. And in the emails, President Trump said, I don't want to be associated with that. He kicked out Epstein because he's like, yeah, I don't want to be associated with creepy dudes, right? And the creepy stuff. Again, this is such a disgusting game from Democrats. It really is.
Inside and outside the world of politics. Incriminating emails, well, what specifically and how significant was it? And when we sit up there as Democrats and we're applauding on the House floor, now that Alita Grijalva was there talking about she'll be the final vote to sit up there and open the Epstein files, and everybody's applauding for the Democratic Party. Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that the Epstein files were in existence and free to have been opened during the Biden administration. You were there for 4 years. How come you didn't open it as a Democratic Party then? What am I missing? I'm not saying I know. It's a legitimate question. Maybe I don't remember the answer. Maybe my extraordinary producers should be able to help me during the commercial break. But from my understanding, the same files that were open or being open now with the 220 pages of documents or whatever it is, with various emails, that could have been done when Biden was in office. Well, why didn't you do it? If it's so important now. What were the Democrats doing at that particular moment in time? See, this is the kind of stuff that smells. Because my attitude is just deducing how much they despise Trump is if there was some real bona fide dirt on him, since you went after him with the 34 felony convictions, which essentially was deduced to him paying hush money to Stormy Daniels, a porn star, just so she wouldn't reveal their happenings with one another leading up to the election in 2016, okay? If you had something like that you were willing to parade him through the streets with, of course, if you had something on him about Epstein, you'd have let it go earlier to make sure he didn't become the 47th president. That's just my thinking from a logical perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's common sense, right? I mean, anybody with any basic logic knows, well, again, if there was anything there, it would have been released by now. They've had plenty of time. Because they haven't released anything on the president, it's because they don't have anything. And again, people are going to find out that a lot of this stuff was BS, right? That's what people are about to find out.
But what do I know? Either way you slice it. When that kind of stuff is going on, all it does is foster the continual divide that is inevitably going to exist. One side hates each other so much that neither side is willing to negotiate and work with one another until desperate times means desperate measures. And the American people are the ones that suffer first, and they're the ones that suffer the most before the residual collateral impact is truly, truly felt. That's the damn problem. And even with the end of this shutdown taking place, I still find myself thinking, more of the same, ain't nothing new. A continual resolution likely be reached, be signed, shutdown will probably end. It's going to end today. And as a result, okay, the government will be financed through the end of January. Let's get through the holidays. At least this ain't going on during Thanksgiving. At least this ain't going on through Christmas. At least this ain't going on through New Year's Eve. And we'll go into the New Year's, and then we can be the same old sorry asses we've been. At the expense of the American people.
Yeah. So the reason why I think that Stephen A's opinion here is somewhat relevant is because of the fact that I see Stephen A as a proxy for how the moderate, right, the left-leaning moderate thinks, okay? And if Stephen A can see the games that Democrats are playing and he's calling that out, he's pissed off about it. Again, I'm trying to figure out how is it that Democrat voters are not pissed off about it, right? If for real, if you support Democrats and you're one of these Epstein crusaders, how can you not see through this BS? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I really don't. At some point, as a liberal, shouldn't you be offended by Democrats insulting your intelligence? Seriously. Shouldn't you be offended? Shouldn't you say, you know what? These people think that I'm dumb. They think that I'm stupid. I don't want to support people who think that I'm stupid. Why would you want to support people that think that you're stupid? Why would you want to do that? I ask myself this every single day about these liberals because I feel like Democrats, they insult my intelligence every single day, and I'm not one of their supporters. So if I'm insulted, right, if I'm offended, I'm like, how do y'all run this type of propaganda that's just so bad? How is your propaganda this bad? How are you this bad at this, right? You really thought you could get away with this? If I am offended, I'm trying to figure out why Democrat voters are not offended. Why are they not offended by the fact that Democrats are spending so much time on stuff like this, crazy stuff that isn't going anywhere, right? They're not going to get anything out of this. They might expose themselves, right? That's the most of it they're going to get. But they're certainly not going to bring down the president. If anything, I think this is helping President Trump. That's one of the reasons why it's never over for President Trump, right? It's never over for President Trump. When people say, oh, it's over for MAGA. It's over for Trump. Trump is done. No, Trump is never done. And one of the reasons why Trump is never done is because Democrats make sure that Trump is never done. Stuff like this makes people say, you know, I might not like Trump, but I hate Democrats a lot more than I don't like Trump because of stuff like this. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.